right, guys, we're going to insert this one a little bit earlier into the episode just because somebody answered it, didn't answer it, and Rip loves making fun of my...
Johnny.
Yeah, and Rip loves making fun of me as I stutter. So one of the questions that didn't get answered was, do you play your Sonic games?
Your Sonic games. You, Jason, Griffith. How many Sonic games have you been in, by the way?
I don't know. I guess as many as Pete and a couple more.
How many is that?
I think, no, probably the same because you was 06 your first game.
I need a number, boys.
Shadow the Hedgehog was my first.
I need a number. How many games do you think you've been voiced in?
Sonic games, probably 15 or 16-ish.
Wow.
I'm gonna guess 9 for you.
No, okay, 9.
9 or 10.
And are those mostly from Xbox era on?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, they were on, I want to say they were multi-platform, all the games were.
Okay. What's like the newest Sonic you guys did? Do you know?
The last one that I remember doing was Sonic Unleashed. Although people have told me Riders was after Sonic, but when we recorded the games, we were recording multiple games at once. So we would flip from this script to this script, and they wouldn't have names, they wouldn't have titles at this point.
Did you do Sonic Colors?
I did not do.
No.
That's Wii, right? That's Wii.
Yeah.
I think.
That's too new.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So my last game was Sonic Unleashed, where but the thing was, when the people came in from San Francisco and Japan to record the game, you had to record it that week. And I remember that specific week, I thought I had strep throat. It was the absolute, it was like I swallowed glass at some point. And if you've ever played that game...
It was from those chicken parm sandwiches.
It was the chicken... That's when I quit.
It should have been the jalapeno chips that scratched your throat.
Could have been that too. Or the raspberry iced tea that I washed it all down with. But I played the Werehog as well, and that required me to do these excruciatingly loud and long screams. And
I saw that from our fans asking in the question. Someone said, did Jason recover from the Werehog?
I did, but it took a long time. And so what they'd want is a 12-second scream, a 15-second scream, an 18, because they didn't know how long it was going to last.
What does the scream sound like?
Are you ready?
Yes.
Yeah, you might want to back a little bit away from the mic, but sure. That's
Now imagine you think you have strep throat and they ask you to do that 2 takes of that length, 2 takes of a 15-second, 2 takes of a 8-second, and so if you play that game and you hear that scream, just know that Back to the Past Jason is tasting blood. Because every single scream,
I was clenching his butt.
Oh,
legit.
it
was really clenching his butt.
Right before this interview or this podcast, I did that.
he wanted to let him know he took a big dump before this podcast.
Had to.
So
Goofy into it.
But So Chris Collet was the director on that game, and he knew I was suffering. And I think that the 5th time they were asking for a different length, I just remember Chris turning to the guys and going, "Guys, I think we got it." Let's just, I think we got it. And I was laying down in a break room on my breaks, drinking like hot and sour soup. It was the most intense recording situation in my life, but I also feel like it made me push my performance in a way that I didn't want to sound sick. And I think for some reason that's why a lot of people will say this is my favorite game. Sonic sounds completely different in this game. It's just a whole different vibe. And I think it's because I just was like, I was every single week up until this week. I'm not going to sound sick now for this game,
That's like your Jordan flu game. Like that was like your reference to that.
How Michael Jordan would play when he had the flu.
Oh, Jordan flu. I'm like, who is this Jordan, flu?
Sorry, I know. It's
Kobe too, right? He would play with the flu?
No, he basically tore his Achilles and still walked off the court.
There you go. Okay, I think you guys still dodge the question, politicians.
He's good at that. I told you
I played 06. I played 06, and I think that's the only one.
He earned his stripes.
Kind of. So if you were in 15 and you only played one, you're still a naughty hot hedgehog.
Yeah.
I don't know what that meant.
Naughty,
I'm going to call my wife that later.
Now I have my new screen name is the Naughty Hedgehog.
They need that. What about you?
Surprisingly,
go on. Awesome.
I have never played any of the games that I voiced.
Okay, here you go. The door's right there. He got sad.
Not that I didn't want to, but by that time I didn't even own a television. I was living in Times Square in 2 of my apartments would have fit in this room. Next to, it was actors, artists, and the formerly homeless. And sometimes
Same thing, by the way.
it was really hard to tell who was who.
Yeah.
Only time I was ever punched in my face was by my neighbor in my hallway. The only time I was ever exposed to people smoking crack was in my building. Okay.
Wow.
So I didn't have a TV. I certainly didn't have a gaming system. And at that point, I had played so many video games growing up that I wasn't interested in buying any new ones.
So you're telling me that you were Sonic and getting paid this money, but you weren't getting paid enough to be able to.
No, I was, but I just didn't. I just didn't invest in a gaming system.
That. Okay, got it. Okay.
That being said, I would have loved to have played one of my games. I don't know how they, when people tell me they love them or they hate them, I don't have an opinion either way. All I can pull from is my experience of standing there thinking, when are they going to fire me? Of course, they're going to realize that they've made a terrible mistake by hiring me.
Well, Jason, we don't have any of the games, but we do have crack, and I can punch you in the face. So here we go.
Next podcast.
This podcast took a turn.
Can you throw in a handful of roaches?
Dude, that is actually like, how about on our show?
Yeah.
Sometime we get you to play your games for the first time. I think it'd be
I'll consider it.
I'll consider it done.
Let's do it. Let's do this.
Yeah, can you? No, I'm not going to make.
Tell me, what do you
I'm
want
not
me to
going to
do?
make you do it in the Sonic voice the whole time.
I'll play the whole game like this. What are you doing, Sonic? Jump!
I know.
This is
I
so
want some
gnarly.
Sonic dialogue between you two. Is that too corny to ask you guys to do that?
Hey, Silver, I really like your hat.
Hey, thanks. It's called self-promotion.
I see that. This is called Carol Burnett's hair. This is called Barbara Streisand on the Superman album's hair.
I don't know what you're talking about. I'm from the future. I don't know who Carol Burnett or Barbara Streisand are.
I know who they both are, and I love them. This is Shadow the Streisand.
I just realized that Shadow the Hedgehog sounds like Shadow Stevens, the announcer from the 80s. Is that who you based him?
One and
is
the
he
same.
center square?
I did base this voice on a roommate I had.
Shadow?
Yes. I had a roommate named Carl who was a good 15, 20 years older than me and chain smoked and was a writer and was very mysterious. Always wanted to talk about his book. And so when I went into audition for Shadow, I was like, oh, I'll just do Carl,
That is
the ultimate
cool.
life form. And I'd like to speak about my book.
Have you given Carl royalties? I'm just kidding.
Yeah. I didn't get him. So as soon as I get him, he'll get him.
So explain I think we mentioned it either this podcast or the earlier one, the royalties thing. So with that stuff, you guys were just paid out up front. That's it. Was there an opportunity like ever in the future? Like, hey, maybe.
No.
That's
You
not
were
how that-
completely in their hands. As a matter of fact, I'm pretty sure, I cannot remember, but I'm pretty sure we both found out at that awful convention that we were at. They were like, hey, some fan in like a panel. All we did was panels and never like signings or anything like that. And someone was like, how do you feel about them replacing you and replacing 4Kids as the production company? And I remember being like, wait, what? Like, I had no idea.
Yeah.
And I think the only one who did know was Mike Pollock, because he was the only one they kept on.
Yeah. And I believe he had to re-audition for that as well.
Is 4Kids still around?
No.
It's Activision. No,
It's Konami now.
Konami.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think their only, I don't want to speak out of turn, but I think their only property is Yu-Gi-Oh! At this point.
Allegedly.
Allegedly, yeah, I don't know.
With you guys with the royalties thing, was this all the way through all of your Sonic type stuff that you guys did, like all the way through? You weren't getting royalties, or was there ever a
So
point
it was
where you're
just
like,
Well,
contracted
first of all,
work,
there's
huh?
no royalties for video games as it is.
It's just
Ever.
contracted.
Ever. Even
See, I didn't know that.
today. No.
Okay, I didn't know that.
There's session fees, and they're great session fees if it's union, but there were never royalties. The only thing that would have paid royalties would have been the TV show, but that was also non-union at the time. So
got it. So you didn't nothing with that as well.
nope.
Have you played any other games other than Sonic that you were voicing in?
Okay, so for a split second, I played Mario and Sonic at the Olympics. Because I bought it for my brother for Christmas back in 2000.
So you're a liar, is what you're saying.
I like Pete.
Straight up,
Dude, he's a
fibber.
professional.
Fibber.
But that doesn't really count because I believe it was one of the games where they took, which is another great thing they can do when it's non-union. They just grab your sound and put it into a different game and go, sorry, no pay for you.
Oh, I recorded for that one.
Oh, you did? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, that's because all of Silver's lines were so super dramatic in 06. And then now it's like, hey, I'm riding a skateboard or whatever I did. Snowboard, whatever it was.
It is so crazy to hear your guys' voices just right in front of me. And it's like, we know your guys' voices on the video games, but it's just even gnarlier that it's in person.
My brain's just trying to put myself into your guys' positions and scenarios years ago. It's such an interesting thing.
It really is mind-blowing. And like you said, you just have to thank God, the universe, or whatever, for the ability to speak for a living. That's really what we're doing. We're speaking for a living, and it's not even like it's not even like ancillary. Like for some people, it meant so much, and it's like, how does that? And we get paid to do it.
Yeah.
How much and we get to travel around.
Yeah,
and
that's the coolest part. Like I was saying to you earlier that when I did this thing and then I moved out to LA and I had booked a TV show and then the writers went on strike and that TV show no longer existed. But I was like, no, I'm a serious actor now. And like, I recorded Silver from LA, but I never, like, when people brought that up, I just pushed it away. I was like, nah, it's not what I want to be associated with. I want to be, I'm a serious actor. Even if I was doing comedy, it's like, no, I'm a real actor. And then I'm like, what am I talking about? This is affected. First of all,
Huge.
if you total the TV, film, and music industry, they don't even come close in comparison to the video game industry as far as income goes or profit goes.
Sales.
So what was I thinking? Like, there's such a larger audience in the video game world. And then I realized like how much effect we had on these people. And I told you this earlier, where my acting coach, my current acting coach, was like, hey, how are these conventions going? And I was like, every artist's dream is to affect somebody in some way. Yeah. And the last thing I thought it would be was through a 14-year-old hedgehog. But here we are. And I'm so lucky. And what an idiot I was in my like late 20s, early 30s to just try to push that away. What if I would have embraced it? Maybe we would have gotten to the fans earlier. I don't know.
Also, I want to just step back for a second and talk about when we were speaking about nostalgia. The very first so I didn't have a television, but I had a laptop in Times Square. And when I found, I got to show it. When I found
plugging other people's
He's
YouTube
the
show.
angry video game nerd.
That really, it opened so much, memory locks and whatnot for me, that I became an AVGN junkie. I watched every episode, multiple. It was all I was watching. So
Same.
when I was recording Sonic, when I was doing all the games and everything, and I would go home at night, I would bring my pizza or my
chicken parm or jalapeno chips
up to my room, and I would put on like a playlist of AVGN right from the beginning. I could recite it word for word, but still, it touched that nostalgic part
How
of me.
did you keep the ladies away?
You were such a
Chicken
stud.
parm, jalapeno chips, and angry video game nerd.
Was it the crack outside?
No joke. The day I left my apartment to move in with my now wife in Brooklyn, I came back for something and I noticed, I was like, and it glanced in my mind. I was like, oh, the window shot out. That's weird in the lobby. And then I asked one of the security guards, I said, what happened? He's like, double homicide, murder, homicide, suicide last night. I was like, oh man, I got out just in time.
I got out just in time.
Do you guys have a dream voiceover role if you could pick one dream role that they're like, hey, we're going to replace this voice? Do you have one that would be your ultimate holy grail?
Pete probably has a better answer for it, but I think I already did it. I can't think of anything being cooler than having been Sonic and Shadow. It's hard for me to, I'd love to do The Simpsons, like,
I was literally thinking that in my head, like a Homer. Or
I mean, I grew up, that's all I watched, The Simpsons and Full House. That was like every single VHS
Full
tape.
House.
Oh, dude, I was in love with Candace Cameron and wanted to be Uncle Jesse. So
that's my daughter. My kids aren't allowed to watch much, to be honest, but that is her thing.
Oh, yeah.
She has gone through that more times than I can tell you. The original Full House.
It's so amazing.
It really is.
I think I don't know. I mean, like every job I do, I feel like I'm so lucky to do. I don't think there's any small job that I'm like, this is beneath me, or I'm always like, how am I here right now? Like at Warner Brothers or Sony or Paramount, I'm just like, how am I here right now? You know? Well, how am I
here at the Pixel Podcast.
For sure here at the Pixel Podcast. Like 100 times in my mind, I'm like, isn't this crazy, Jason, that we're here being interviewed?
Right.
Like, okay, shut up. Look at the games.
Yeah, she's staring at the game.
I have two, any Muppet and any X-Men.
Ooh.
Well,
okay, now let's get more specific then.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, yes, Pete, you can pick your X-Men. Who would you choose?
I said any because I was so torn between Wolverine, because I would love to do a Wolverine, but I also I love Gambit so much.
Literally the two I would have picked.
Yeah, those are my two favorites. Have you watched X-Men 97 yet?
Not the new one yet.
Oh, it's fantastic.
Not the new one yet.
Fantastic.
No one likes Cyclops.
He's great in X-Men 97. Like they really redeem him in this. Yeah. So I was actually kind of upset that I was like, I never even got an opportunity to read for that show.
How would you have done Wolverine?
I don't know.
I'm not sure.
I was prepared or anything. This would be my first shot. Hey, Jason, why don't you get me a chicken parm, bub?
Extra cheese, Mr. Wolverine.
Oh, mon ami, can I get some of them jalapeno chips?
Yeah.
Oh, God. I love
Gambit, it's funny. Gambit's voice too is never a voice. Like when I was a kid, I don't feel like I resonated what his voice actually was until I was older. And I'm like, I feel like my brain, when I rewatched it as an adult, I was like, that's not what I pictured Gambit sounding like, but it is.
Because he's Cajun. He's a Cajun thief.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's great. I love it. The one I just did, terrible, but I could probably do a good Gambit.
Yeah, you just with your practice. I got that. Dang.
I do my next door neighbor in Times Square named Tony. Tony's the one who punched me in the face. And also one day, later on, I got a big television. My mom shipped me, and I decided to throw it out. And I said to Tony, hey, man, do you want my TV before I throw it out? And his girlfriend was there. And he goes, oh, no, man, I got HD TV, man. I was like, okay, that's fine. And so later on, I get a call from his girlfriend who lived in the building. And she said, you keep your tacky television, you loser from Cleveland.
For real?
I got a message on my home phone. And so I called Tony. I'm like, hey, man, I'm sorry. I just got a call from Judy. And I didn't mean to offend you or anything. And he went, oh, don't worry about that, man. That's just a woman thing.
Sorry, I like that. That's pretty funny.
I don't know if you want to go too much in depth with like a little bit like with Pokemon, like how I was working on those.
How many have you done?
Yeah.
I've done so many creatures.
Ish. You got a number?
In the 50s range, I think. I don't know. They're all listed on IMDb. But there's always so many one-offs. It's like, oh, I did that one. Like there are ones like Scraggy that I've done over and over and over. But then there's ones that I can't even remember because I did them one time. The one that gave me the most trouble was Bear Tick, because it had to do it in such a way that I would hiccup every single time I did it. And we would just have to do take after take until I wasn't hiccuping, or they could edit it out. Like if I could hold it for 1 second after doing that. But that's...
You'd think you'd just voice it different.
Nope. Cool. That was the one they wanted.
Yeah.
But I have to say, working on Pokemon is one of the most challenging shows because they're so meticulous about a certain sound, a certain performance, and they will do take after take after take. If they, you would think it would be easy. You're just saying creature name, but no, they're very, very particular about it. And I think it's great. I think that lends itself to how good the show is and why it's so popular.
It's crazy because Pokemon has been revamped realistically in the last couple of years. I feel like it's become way more popular.
Oh my gosh.
When Pokemon Go came out, I always said that was the time to where when people said they weren't gamers, showed that they were gamers. Because there were so many people that are games are dumb, games are lame, and then Pokemon Go came out and everybody who never played games was going wild.
Anytime anybody relaunches it, even with Sonic, like people are like, well, what do you feel about the movies? Keep making the movies, because that just reminds people of the games and the cartoons and all the stuff that we got to do. So like the more that people are exposed to this stuff, the more people fall in love with the franchises.
Yeah.
Did you guys, when the new Sonic stuff is happening, was there any like attempt at your guys like through your manager, your agent, or anything? Are you guys mentally like, do we have a chance at any of this type of stuff?
I think by the time I knew about it, there was already someone attached to sign. It wasn't like, oh, we're looking for someone. Although I remember being in session at Warner Brothers, and I got a call from my agent saying TMZ wanted to interview me about Sonic's new appearance and what I thought of it.
When it was still bad, or
before they revamped it, yeah. And that never happened. But I just thought it was so weird. They're going to ask me what I think of a flocked Sonic.
Yeah. What'd you think of it?
I don't know. I didn't have an opinion. I
think they did it on purpose. I think it was a total, like, we're going to make this look really bad, and then people are going to talk about it. And then everyone's gonna. If that wasn't a PR move, it should have been, because it got people talking about Sonic.
I actually know a guy, I won't say who because I wasn't supposed to, who got a call when the reception was so bad that he was one of the I think 6 people they called in to help go in there and tell them this is how you should make him look.
That did that.
Oh, there you go. There you go.
Wow.
So is Silver or Shadow coming into the new
Shadow
one?
will be in this next one. They haven't announced who voices him yet.
It's John
Griffin.
John Wick, maybe.
Yeah. And then so my agent reached out immediately to them and was just like, is Silver going to be in it? And that, obviously it hasn't been for the first 3 movies. So who knows what'll happen in the future, and who knows if you never know who's going to reach out for what.
Let's hope for the
That
best.
is not a teaser. I'm not saying it. I know what reached out.
Can I get a meeting with your agent who reaches out immediately when something like this happens?
You heard it here, folks. He's sending samples.
He's Silver. They're doing it. Part 4 now.
And I feel like I can't plug this enough, guys. These guys will be at SoCal Gaming Expo and June 8th and June 9th of the Pasadena Center. And
I'm telling you, this event has taken a life in the past couple months of I feel like it's going to be much bigger than we expected.
Oh, it's going to be great.
As far as
be awesome.
It's going to be so much fun.
turnout and how it's happening and what's happening. So.
Also, it's the week after my birthday, so I accept any and all presents.
Dude,
Yep.
honestly, I think Jason will give you $100 gift.
This was a gift from a fan at my first signing.
Your bling bling?
The bling. I guess they don't make this anymore. And I was like, "Are you sure you want to give this to me?" It was like this army dude, this big army dude. I'm like, and he's very emotional as he's giving this to me. I'm like, you could destroy me.
It was Sergeant Slaughter.
It was Sergeant Slaughter in the flesh. Huge Sonic fan. And when he gave this to me, I thought to myself, well, surely they'll bring me jewelry at every event. And then never again.
But yeah, guys, go visit their table at SoCal. And like I said, all their links and their socials will be in the description with the full audio podcast as well. So thank you guys. Jason and Pete, you guys are amazing.
Thank you for getting my name right.
John!
Tim Griffin was a great Buzz Woody. All right.